ultimately, it's all about aligning what you're doing tactically with the audience to make sure you have that direct connection. And in the B2B niche side, sometimes sometimes that's easier, and sometimes you have to test and learn.
Have a handful of questions to ask you, so I'll just kind of show them up on the screen, give a little bit of context to them, and be able to kind of pick your brain a little bit.
Okay, sounds good.
So the first question is, how can SEO support a long and complex sales cycle? So B2B companies with complex sales, they often have to kind of extend that buyer journey. So how does SEO help nurture leads through that process, from awareness to consideration to conversion, and kind of keep prospects engaged over time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you kind of just alluded to it, where I think SEO has a strong ability to support is in SEO's focus across the entire buyer's journey, right? Full funnel. So from your informational content in creating awareness, obviously SEO is really well known for that in terms of creating, just that top level awareness, reaching really broad audiences who are not familiar with your brand or who you are. That top of funnel content and exposure in search is a great way to get maximum exposure at the top of the funnel. When you start looking at commercial intent, right, and that middle of funnel, that consideration phase, there's specific types of content that we create, in the B2B space that helps people that are in that consideration stage, right? Comparing different types of solution, looking at people's problems and different ways that they can address it. It can be, comparing different, different actual vendors or providers. It can be comparing different approaches. It can be comparing, legacy solutions versus a newer solution. So there's a lot of different ways that you can target that middle of funnel when people are still trying to figure out their purchases. And then, of course, when we look at transactional intent, the end of the buyer's journey, SEO is super involved in that as well. So things like our solution pages, our service pages, right? Those product pages for our B2B products. The way that we optimize those, the way that we understand how people are searching and the specific elements that they are considering at that final stage before making a typically not a purchase decision, but before engaging with someone in the B2B space, SEO is there as well. So it can support the entire buyer's journey, specifically with how we target that content and how we promote that content too. So there's a lot of things off-site in terms of, link acquisition, PR, promotion on social media, those types of things that will go hand in hand with SEO to help support that, full funnel.
Next question. How do we measure the ROI of SEO for this complex sell? So given the long sales process, you kind of have multiple touch points. Like, what are the best metrics that you look at for measuring SEO through those different stages and different SEO strategies?
It's not easy, right? Like when we deal with an e-commerce, we have sales going right there, and it ultimately comes down to attribution, right? When we are on the B2B side, we have to be tracking channel-specific leads that are coming in, right? So we're looking at leads that are coming in from organic. That's starting with our marketing qualified leads. This process has to be really like a partnership between us as an agency and working with our clients. We have to figure out with them, okay, how is this going to be tracked, right? How does this function in your CRM? What are your capabilities? Sometimes it's more advanced because they've got more advanced CRMs and this data is already set up. Other times it can be more manual. If we've got a client that the actual lead volume is lower, very high ticket type of thing, it may be as manual as once these are coming in, it's going on a spreadsheet, right? And they've got data attached to it, but then they're getting qualitative data from sales as they're going through and qualifying leads to the SQL, right? And then ultimately, we have to determine what average transaction value is, and that can be really messy. But starting to understand volume of MQLs that then turn into SQLs, and then what those deal sizes are will give us average transaction value. That can be a really long sales cycle. So in the beginning, it might be more looking at, hey, here's the historic numbers that we have. This is what we know we get, right? For every 10 MQLs, we know that 6 of those are decent SQLs. And then out of those 6, we typically close 2, and historically we've been at X, right? So you can start running those numbers early on and then see as you execute on the SEO side, how do those trends change? What are the net gains after you've done a 6 months, 1 year, 18 months? And then the kind of one of the key elements is then how we now set goals once we've been able to connect all the dots and get that ROI calculations. Now, how do we set goals to get a desired ROI or to get additional revenue?
So how does SEM and SEO work in a niche B2B market? So what are the advantages of it and for B2B companies with the niche audience, and how do you optimize for sometimes those high cost but like low volume keywords or targets?
Mm-hmm. So it can be challenging depending on how established that niche market is and how large it is. So the advantage can be that in those niches that the competition can actually be lower, depending, right? And you can start getting into very strong alignment with the audience, right? Where we see, it's very niche. It's not a huge market, so there are a lot of times there aren't a lot of competition and a lot of different providers. So you can speak very directly to that audience and really have that achieve that strong light bulb moment where you're speaking the right language, providing the right solution. The some of the challenges can be on the tactical side when you look at how people are searching and what the actual the search volumes look like, right? Also aligning keywords against personas, right? Aligning search behavior with your personas can be challenging as well. If there isn't a lot of data there, right, to pick from. So I think that can present some of the challenges. Ultimately, it's all about aligning what you're doing tactically with the audience to make sure you have that direct connection. And in the B2B niche side, sometimes that's easier, and sometimes you have to test and learn.
And a follow-up question. This goes a little bit further into that, but it's kind of in that same bucket. So how can we align SEO and SEM with like account-based marketing? So a lot of these B2B companies that are in these niche markets, they're focused on like specific high target accounts. How can they align SEO with their ABM strategy?
Yeah, I think it goes back to like that persona mapping. So I know that if we were doing this, right, and we're trying to align with our clients' ABM strategy, it would start with what the company goals are, which you would expect would align with what their ABM strategy is. So whatever sectors, whatever industries they're prioritizing, we would want to make sure that is fully aligned with the persona mapping that we're doing, and then aligned with the content strategy that we're executing, right? So the content that we're creating should speak directly to the problems that their target audience is having, and the timing should align too, right? Similar to some of the stuff that we do at CSP, where we say, hey, here's some of the people that we're speaking to and some of the companies that we're reaching out to. Let's make sure that we're also aligning the content that we're creating during that time, content that we're trying to get visibility for in search, but also content we're promoting on social and we're out there sharing. So it is what you're doing organically to gain that presence, but also aligning your content strategy so that your sales team can actually have fresh content that they're sharing as part of the sales process as they're going through the ABM practices. So if you do it right, these things align, and it can give your sales team some extra ammunition and really support them in what they're doing for ABM.